Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Sports Rants with Abby and friends, but no Abby today. I'm gonna do my best. Me and Guy are gonna do our best to commandeer the ship while she's away. Hopefully, we do a good job, and she doesn't have to yell at us after the show. How are you doing, my man?
Feeling pretty good, man. Well, it's been
Do you
a,
feel
been a
do you
minute.
feel bad for your boy Soto not making the All Star team?
I mean, when you got guys like Julio Rodriguez making the All-Star game, it makes you kind of like wonder. But
I mean, did you look? Well, I think what was his problem was he started off so slow. That's probably, I guess, that I'm assuming that's what's hurt him. Um, what made me upset was his comment when they asked him about not making it. That's
yes,
got to you're already making $765 million. I'm just saying, oh well, I left some money on the table. Like seriously, bro. Like how about I? You know what? If I would have made if I would have swung at better pitches earlier in the season, then who knows where like I want to hear that you could have helped your team win a little more earlier in the season by playing a little better. Instead, no, we got which is what it's like. I feel like it's been his whole career is money, 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 money. He went to the Mets for like such an insignificant amount of money, but it was money. He mentioned last year, every time he got a chance to talk to the press last year as a Yankee, he kept talking about contract. And even this year, I feel like he's always talking about stats like, oh, I'm the youngest. I'm the, or I, I'm the, I'm the, what do you say? He has the most multi-home run games of anyone 27 or younger, which like give me 30 or younger, 25 or younger. 27 is it's insignificant number. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But you know what? I say congratulations because I say this to your cousin. If anyone doesn't know, I'm friends with Guy's cousin Skylar, and I always say to him as well, "Hey, you would enjoy your $765 million me first guy."
hey, as long as he brings the chip to Queens, it'll be all worth it.
Let me tell you
You got to
something.
get that first
Lindor
one.
is worth that money. He's worth more
100%.
than Soto. He's worth more than Soto.
I
I think.
agree. His intangibles and leadership, like now he's actually like one of the faces of New York sports, which in
Mhm.
a few years ago, we weren't thinking that. You remember the whole thumbs down thing, starting
Yeah,
off slow. Like he was actually booed viciously.
yeah,
And his turnaround has to be studied because he went from like villain to hero and
yeah. From heel to face,
heel to
and not only
face.
And not only that, what he has done now also as well is he has bought himself a get out of jail free card in the sense of next season, if he starts off slow, Met fans aren't going to boom as quickly as they've done in the past. He's gotten that now. He's gotten where he says the right things to the press and to the fans. He does the right things on the field. He's becoming what you want as a team leader.
Yep.
He's grown into his position. It wasn't all roses in the beginning, but he is become such a team leader that you have to be just so. I would he'd be the guy that I'd be fearing losing more than Soto.
100%. That's why I think too is that Soto is kind of lucky that there's a guy that's taking that leadership role because if there wasn't a Lindor on that team,
100%.
he would have to answer all those tough questions.
He's got himself a new judge.
Yeah,
Judge was the guy that the press went to first last year. That's the guy that was the face of the franchise, and he's coming to another place where he gets to kind of skate under the radar a little bit and have a face of the franchise, take all the tough questions.
but he was always in that kind of a situation, even San Diego.
Yeah, because they have Machado and I know. And
Washington,
in Washington, he was just and he in Washington, he was the young guy, so
Yeah.
he wasn't expected to answer those questions. So,
Must be nice.
yeah, but you know what? 4 teams in a career is a lot.
It
So,
is. For at
I like
his age.
those. I like those. I like those players that just stay straight through, like the Derek Jeters, like now the Aaron Judges.
Cal Ripken.
I'm just looking for any reason to bash Soto is really all it is, bro. So, all right, so let's get into some stuff. Where do we want to go first? Where do we want to go first?
You know what?
Do we want NBA or do we want to go football? Because we don't have that much football. Do we go football first?
Let's just go football. Yeah.
All right. Well, this actually is really more for you to talk about because it's your team that is. And I know we're a little late on it. But we haven't gotten your opinion on it. Is the Minka Fitzpatrick trade for Jonnu Smith and
I mean,
Jalen Ramsey? I liked it for Miami when it was Minka Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey. Made sense to me.
yeah.
And then I'm like, but then you hear like an hour later, all of a sudden, Jonnu Smith is part of the deal, and it was like, ooh, I don't know. What's your thought on it as a Dolphin fan?
Well, I agree with you. I think getting Minka Fitzpatrick, even though the way he left us was kind of, but it was under a different regime. So we're both turning the page on that. Minka is definitely better at this point in his career than Jalen Ramsey. So I think that was definitely an improvement for the secondary. We still need help at the cornerback position, though. You know, that's a glaring weakness for us. But Minka's gonna do great anywhere you put him. Jonnu Smith, though, you know, he was our only Pro Bowler last year. He had built such a great rapport with Tua as being that security blanket, and you just trade him away. That's a bad look for the organization, in my opinion. Is like, I get that you're trying to cut costs at different positions, but for a guy that just had a great year like that for us, kind of out of nowhere, no one was really expecting him to kind of burst on the scene like that. He kind of just said, we'll trade you for a pick of, what is it, 5th round pick from Pittsburgh.
Whatever it is was not worth Jonnu Smith. It wasn't enough for Jonnu Smith. And here's my thing too. On the flip side of it, if you're Pittsburgh, I don't know what you're doing. I'll be honest. If I'm Pittsburgh, I still don't even know if I like the deal because you got all right. So you get rid of Fitzpatrick, but he's the better player between him and Ramsey. I think, my personal opinion. Now maybe Ramsey will have resurgence as a safety. We'll see. I mean, a lot of those corners can be. We look at how it prolonged certain corners' careers and made them Pro Bowlers all over again once they started losing a step when they moved to safety. If you look at the Rod Woodsons and some of the like, but Minka Fitzpatrick to me is better than where Jalen Ramsey is now. So I look at it that way. And here's the other thing: if I'm a Pittsburgh fan, I already have Freiermuth. I don't need a tight end. Why are we getting another tight end? And we don't even. And if I'm a Pittsburgh fan, I'm saying to myself, we don't even utilize Freiermuth as good as we can because I think Freiermuth is still. We've only seen the tip of the iceberg with Freiermuth is how good he can be, but they just don't use him the right way. And they're bringing in Arthur Smith as their new offensive coordinator, who has shown in Atlanta, where you have an uber talented tight end by the name of Pitts, that he was never able to utilize the correct way. And here we are bringing in more tight ends for a guy that an offensive coordinator that doesn't know how to utilize the tight end.
Yeah.
So if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm also like, what the hell are we doing? As a matter of fact, I'll go one further. I know one of the guys on the channel is a Pittsburgh guy, is certified Rob from the Rookies of the Year, and he doesn't like the trade because he obviously gave up Minka Fitzpatrick for Jalen Ramsey. He feels like Jalen Ramsey lost a step, but he also looks at it like, why do I need Jonnu Smith? He's great, but I already have a great tight end that we don't even utilize as is. So why do we need another one? So
are they trying
I don't
to
know.
New England kind of like 2 tight end sets, trying to, I guess go off that model because, like Aaron Rodgers is going to need all the help he can get. And maybe
Shaq makes a good point. I know Shaq makes a great point. They've been coach and player in a couple of different stops. I think even in college, right? If I remember correctly. But the last stop we've seen Arthur Smith, he didn't use.
Yeah.
He had Kyle Pitts. He didn't use him the right way. Kyle Pitts could be a star in this league, and I think you're going to see him only get better as time goes on. I think with new coaching. And even if you see Bijan Robinson, he didn't even know how to use Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson looked like he wasn't the guy we thought he'd be, and then actually had a nice year. So under a new regime. So I just don't get it. Like do you? So if you're a Steeler fan, do you trust him to utilize tight ends the correct way? Like, do you look at it like I don't, and I'm a Steeler fan.
No,
no.
You how can you, right? Like you can only go off of what you've seen in 100%. History. So it's like in Atlanta they didn't do it. So I don't know. I mean, unless they are going to make a concerted effort to run plays for both Freiermuth and Smith, because I mean they did get rid of Pickens, so maybe that opens up more of that intermediate game. Because Rodgers isn't going to throw the deep ball like he can't throw the deep ball like he
not like he could. No.
So maybe they're just going to try to move the chains and be a time of possession team, run the ball more. They're going to have to, But I don't know. I agree with what you said though. I don't like the trade for Pittsburgh either. I feel
like nobody really got improved here. Like
at the very least, it's a lateral move. It's
for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, for Pittsburgh. It's not like, oh yeah, we got considerably better or even marginally better.
Like you got a great tight end coming in, but you already had a great tight end that you don't utilize as well as you should as is. You know what? I'll tell you what. Shaq brings up a great point. I probably would take Arthur Smith out of the three of them.
Yeah,
but that's like
the lesser of the evils here.
Yeah, it's like, would you rather have gonorrhea or chlamydia? Either way, I got to take penicillin, right? So, either one of these guys, you're gonna need a shot of penicillin on Monday morning. You know what I mean?
Woo. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But you know what? So bringing us to another topic is maybe Pittsburgh could be, trading away a picket wide receiver. Could they be in the market for scary Terry McLaurin? We're hearing that he might be on the trade market because of the fact that they can't reach a deal. He doesn't want to come in for. I think his deal is only worth. It's only worth $15 million. Only $15 million.
Only.
But he's looking to get into that upper echelon of like that $30 million range, which. If you look at the other guys in the league, he had a great. What do you have? I think he had double-digit touchdowns last year, didn't he?
Yeah,
I believe he did.
I think so. He did, yes,
it was as good as he's been going into last year. Last year he had just another remarkable year. You would think Washington, hey, we're not paying our quarterback yet. Let's give this guy another contract. We got a nice thing going right now. We found our quarterback, young, cheap. Let's keep one of the best receivers in the league happy. Make sure that we have some development with our quarterback. I think you need him because I think Debo is going to get hurt at one point this season. He gets hurt every year. I'm not saying he's going to miss a whole season, but there's going to come a point where he's probably going to miss 2 or 3 games. You're going to need Terry McLaurin at that point. So I think it's silly. I think Washington needs to pay this guy, but if that's not going to happen, Pittsburgh might be a great spot for him because they need another receiver. Unless you believe in some of the other guys they have there, I don't necessarily. Not if you're trying to make another step with Aaron Rodgers. You got Aaron Rodgers for 1 year, so you're basically all in, right? This is going to be an all in season for Pittsburgh. So why they don't have that that bona fide number 2 receiver is beyond me. I would, if I'm them, I want to get a 1A receiver. Now, forget about getting a number 2. I want a 1 and 1A. I want DK and a guy that's just as good as DK or as close to it as possible. I think I would have to be on McLaurin at that point. I gotta say, hey, listen, you guys haven't gotten a deal yet. I gotta call Washington and be like, what do you guys want for him? Like, let's make something happen here. What kind of picks are you looking for? And there's other teams involved that might be involved too. There's a lot of rumors that the Jets might be involved. They could also use another guy, for their receiver room. And how nice would it be to have? It's almost like the Nova Knicks last year. We got like the Ohio State Jets all of a sudden with all the guys that they have. But where do you see it, man? Like, give me your idea of what Washington really should be doing, and where if it doesn't work out, where can you see that perfect fit?
So I mean, I'm with you. I think Washington definitely needs to keep McLaurin. I mean, when Washington wasn't good, at
Hmm.
least he was,
Hmm.
the constant. He was like that. They're really lone superstar that you could be like, wow, okay. I mean, if he had a quarterback, God only knows the numbers that he would put up.
Yeah.
And being that you do have such a young quarterback, I mean, you would want weapons as much as possible to help
Yeah.
his development and confidence. Very hard to be a quarterback in the NFL with the speed of the game. Um, and just to have somebody with that track record is invaluable to a young quarterback. And perfect fits. I mean, just about anybody could use that skill set. Um, Even if you have maybe one or two receivers are already that are maybe 1-2 or 1A, 1B.
If you're talking about Waddle and Hill in Miami, hands off, bro. You already got some good receivers. All right, stop.
Yes.
Put him somewhere where they legitimately need him, please.
You know what? Given I'm looking at teams that are on the rise, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe New England would be a nice spot for him. Maybe Green Bay. Uh, they have a bunch of like twos and threes. He
Hmm.
would walk in there and be the number one guy, for Jordan
Yeah.
Love. But I don't know if that makes cap sense for them. But they have a need for that, and they're a playoff team, Green
Yeah.
Bay. Uh, but they lack the dynamic playmaker at the wide receiver position. They have a lot of solid guys, but nobody that really like make you say wow,
Hmm.
But I think that that's the most interesting fit. But is Green Bay going to spend the money or spend the draft capital? They show that they're not
Yeah,
really.
that's not their history,
Yeah,
and neither is it really Pittsburgh's history to do it either. But again, I think Pittsburgh, again, if you're going all in, you have to go all in, right? You have Aaron Rodgers for a year. You have to go all in.
they're
What
drinking the
better?
Aaron Rodgers Kool-Aid, bro.
They are, not me.
Yeah,
I spit that out like, really early, bro. I didn't even
you
want to take a
vomited
sip.
it up.
I didn't even want to take a sip. I was like the guy in Jonestown that didn't want to drink the Kool-Aid. You know what I'm saying? But I ended up drinking it because I had to. And then
Oh,
4 plays into the season, I croaked.
oh,
But I'll tell you what, Pittsburgh, I'm not saying it's going to work because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to work,
yep,
but they do. They think they have a shot with him this year. So you gotta go. You gotta go get another weapon for him. But another place that might be pretty nice for him. What about Denver? Got a young Bo Nix that you're not going to pay for another 3 years.
yeah.
No real number one guy there either. I know a lot of people love Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton might be one of the most overrated. He's on the trade market because he's so good, and he's in a place where they don't really need him. Right? It's McLaurin is light years better than Sutton.
100%.
So yeah, I think that would be even a nice place for him to land.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I mean, Bo Nix burst on the scene too. Another
Mm-hmm.
great, young up and coming quarterback. Definitely surround these young quarterbacks with weapons. They're on their rookie deal, so the time is now to spend on weapons, especially at the skill position.
That's when you do it.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
where you
that.
build up the rest of your team. You spend the lottery ticket on the quarterback. You hope he works, and then you say, okay, he's good. We got 3 more years. Let's
Yep.
build the team up we can as easily as we can around him before we have to start playing funny business with the cap. And that's why Washington needs to get it done. Now maybe they look at it like we're already spending a ton of money on Debo because he's already got his big bag. That might be the reason why.
But
But I'll tell you what, either or,
Debo.
I take McLaurin over Debo any day.
Yeah, Debo's already got a lot of miles on the tires. It's like, and I mean, Debo from like 5 years ago was like a machine, but like
Mm-hmm.
now, like you can see the wear and tear starting to slow him down a little bit.
You know what it is? It's playing him as a back sometimes, and
Yep.
he runs like a back, and he gets hit like a back would get hit, and so yeah, his mileage isn't going to. He's not going to get the mileage you could get out of a guy who's just a straight receiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I don't know, man. I think I'd love to see him in Denver, I don't want to see him in Pittsburgh because I can't stand Pittsburgh and I can't stand Aaron Rodgers. But I think that would be a good fit. And of course, I obviously think with the Jets that putting him across from Garrett Wilson, two Ohio State products. You got and I'm not an Ohio State guy. I'm a Notre Dame guy. But two Ohio State products. You got your quarterback from Ohio State. That would be fun to watch. And you got one of your tight ends, Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. Also, he's also a Long Island, New York alum. Or not alum, but guy. So I'd love to see that kind of a combination. See where that goes. But yeah, man, I think they'll get it done in the end. It just doesn't make any sense for Washington to let this kid go.
No, I mean, and they work so hard to like change their image and really get better. Over the last couple of years, they've been one of the worst teams in the league, and then
a laughing stock.
Yeah. And then they finally hit on a draft pick, that really changed the trajectory of their whole organization. They're one of the teams on the rise. I mean, they made a run last year.
Yeah,
they were very close to making it to the Super Bowl, man.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, let's switch our gears. Let's talk a little NBA. A ton of NBA news.
Oh yeah.
Not just since we've been on in 2 weeks, but just in general this last few days. Even literally just before we came on the air, we just found out D-Book just signed his like mega deal, which is he's gonna make almost $75 million a year, bro. $72.5 million a year over the next 2 years. It's a 2-year, $145 million extension. So let's start there since it's fresh and it just happened. Obviously, they needed to do it, Phoenix, and that's why it's such a shame that Abby's not here. She's a Suns gal. A Suns gal, so I'm sure she's excited about it. But if there's a guy worth that much money, is it him? If you take into the account, like he's one of the youngest stars in the league.
I mean, I would say for the most part, I wouldn't say it's a slam dunk, yes. But for Phoenix, yeah, because he's been with your team, I think, almost 10 years now. So you had to take care of him.
Yeah, he's like, 27 now, 28?
Yeah.
So he's not that young. I gave him a little bit more credit. He's not one of the youngest stars. But he's young, and he's been good for a long, long time.
Yeah, and they had to do it, because they already are in flux with a lot of changes on the horizon and changes that they just made. You let go of KD. They're probably going to let go of Bradley Beal.
Yeah, that could be coming any day now, too.
Any day. So you had to lock in your only superstar. And, with the draft picks that they had, they're built. They have a little bit of a youth movement. So who better than Book, the guy that's been there, the wily vet with the kids, just to lead the charge to the new era of Suns basketball.
The only thing I have against Booker, and I love him, I think he's a fantastic scorer. He doesn't. I feel like he doesn't take over the game the way a Kobe Bryant would or LeBron James would. Like those guys, you could put scrubs around them, and they will get you deep into the playoffs anyway, right? We've seen what LeBron did in 2007. I mean, they got swept by the Spurs, but they got to the finals with like no squad. So I mean, he's done that time and time again. It's like I was able to win with nobody, but he won with nobody until it got to the point where they ran into a buzzsaw like the Spurs. It took him to go to Miami to actually win, but he's able to win games without a huge squad around him. I think how would you rate even the team that he had with Cleveland when they won wasn't even that great. I mean, it was kind of like a washed up Kevin Love. They had Kyrie, but that was about it.
Well, Kevin Love, though, was a walking double-double. So, I mean, he could hit threes, and his rebounding was pretty elite.
He was –
because, like –
was he still that guy, though, at that point?
I mean, I feel
like that was the beginning of the end for him.
Like, for a year, maybe, he had, like – I think that year that they won.
Yeah.
The year that they lost, the next year, he kind of, like, fell off a little bit. But that first year when it was Kyrie and Love and LeBron, that was a pretty good trio because, look, Love was the third option, right? And they're just asking him to knock down those open threes and just get boards. and that outlet pass that he's known for. I mean, that squad was pretty good. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst LeBron team.
Yeah. No, I guess the worst one was the 07 one, really.
Yeah. I mean,
like, who was on the 07 team? I don't even remember the 07 team. Was that like Boobie Gibson?
Yeah. Boobie Gibson. I don't even remember if Zydrunas Ilgauskas was still on the team.
I think he might have still been on the team. I think I read somewhere, and I don't know how true it was, that he's played the most games with him and then anybody else in his career. Is that true?
Yeah.
I read it somewhere, and that was the guy that was saying who he's played the most games with, and that I think it was Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
That's wild.
Right?
Knowing how many different stops he's been and playing like 20 seasons.
Yeah, man. And
wow.
and I feel like that dude hasn't been in the league in years, it feels like. So a long time.
At least almost like 15 years, maybe.
Wow, yeah. So speaking of LeBron, there's a lot of rumors about him possibly getting traded, looking to get out. My thing is this: if you wanted to go somewhere else to win a title, what are you doing signing a $50 million contract, man? Do you know what I'm saying? You got more money than you'll ever need, than your kids will ever need, than your grandkids will ever need. You want to win again, go somewhere and sign for a little less so you can go somewhere that can actually fit you in their cap. Well, you don't want to get traded to a place where they're going to have to deplete their team so you can go there, right? But let's play a little GM. What's the team? And we'll state this too because we even put it in our notes. We're not including it. So it's easy to say, oh well, if it goes to OKC, they'll win. No, we're not using teams that will that will win without. So OKC doesn't count. But who goes from just being a contender to an actual favorite if you put them on that team? So not someone that's already like a favorite for a title. So we'll take the Thunder out and maybe the Rockets out. Who goes from just being a fringe contender to a favorite if you add LeBron to their squad?
I have two teams that come to mind. One of them is Detroit. I think Cade Cunningham and him would be a great duo. So Cade could just focus on finishing, and LeBron could be kind of the facilitator because they kind of lack that point guard in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And you could tell that.
Well, they did. Remember, they were missing Ivy, though.
They were. But, I mean, just hit.
Yeah, but I get you saying he's not Ivy. Ivy's not LeBron, but.
Right. But, I mean, they could be on the floor theoretically together, 2 ball handlers, 3 ball handlers. Why not? This is the NBA now in 2025. The other team that comes to mind is Minnesota. And I say that because they kind of need, especially Anthony Edwards, kind of needs that, guidance. Yeah. Because he needs that veteran leadership. I think that's part of the reason why KD didn't want to go there. He didn't want to play that role.
He's never been known to be able to be that role.
Right. And I think LeBron kind of understands that he's looked up to around the league. Kind of doing that with Luka, I think, at least in the beginning. I don't know how their relationship is now, but I think Anthony Edwards would benefit greatly from having a guy like LeBron James. And if you look at their roster, if they have a guy like LeBron, Edwards, Julius Randle, now you have guys with size and versatility. And that's a pretty good, 3-man punch. I don't know who you trade for, but
it would probably be something based around Randall.
Yeah.
But that's a trade. That's a trade I'd make in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
because
if I'm the Lakers, right? You're saying that
if I'm both teams, if I'm looking to get out of the LeBron business, and I need to go and I need to bring in some a quality ball player, then yeah, I bring in Randall because Randall can help me get to that. Not to the next level, but for this next generation of Lakers seasons, right? He doesn't need to be a leader there. He's not, because he's not really a leader, right? And then you're sending LeBron James to a place where they don't need him for that long. They need him to be the leader, to kind of be Edwards' kind of like guru, so to speak, right? Teach him what it's like to lead. Teach him what it's like to be serious, be edgy. It's not about all having fun. It's about work at times. You can have fun, but it's also about work. He's the guy that's going to go there and try to. And listen, if LeBron can't get the point across to Anthony Edwards, no one is. So it's a great fit in that sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think Minnesota would be great. What about I'm hitting close to home with you, but what about the San Antonio Spurs?
I would say absolutely not.
You don't? Is it because you don't want them?
Well, part of that, yes, but I think is like it really depends on what the asking price is, because we do have a lot of draft picks, and to kind of like waste it on the year of LeBron, I don't think it's worth it. I think you go. I'd rather re-sign Chris Paul if we want a veteran to show people the ropes. I have another year of Chris Paul, and or just save the draft capital. And if Giannis asks for a trade, you pull that trigger. A younger, more versatile player at this point of his career. LeBron also brings baggage to a team.
Yeah.
A lot of attention. I don't know if Wemby would be, overwhelmed with all the LeBron thing, or maybe he'll fall into his shadow and just
give him a
worry
chance to
about
kind of grow up. Yeah. Because he's already kind of got that himself especially he's got the whole thing with being from France, and like he's got that whole market. I think he would actually take some of the pressure off him.
He definitely could. I mean, in that regard, that would be a positive, but we do play in a small market, so that kind of helps him too.
Yeah.
Man, I just don't know if LeBron in San Antonio is a good match, though. Just he's too big for that town, I think.
What about LeBron in New York? First of all, let's talk about who you'd have to give up for him, right?
Yeah.
Obviously some picks. Obviously, so who do you think they would? Who would they want back? Would they want, because they're going to want one of the two big men, right? Cat or Robinson?
Yeah. You would have to.
I think it would be OG, and I think it would be one of the either Cat or Robinson. I probably think they go. You know what? If I'm them, I probably want Cat.
Yeah.
Because you have Ayton as well to play like the tough defensive guy, and then you have you would have Cat to be the finesse guy.
Yeah.
So I would probably want Cat, and it would make the money even off easier, right? And then you're going to get OG, who's also going to bring a ton of defense to the team, especially when you got a guy like Luka who plays zero defense.
Yeah.
So it makes them better. Does it now? If you talk about that now, we got our Knicks squad, right? So it's Mitchell in the middle. We still got Hart. We still got Mikal Bridges. We got Jalen Brunson. We got the bench that we got with Deuce McBride, with Yabusele, which I think is the most underrated signing of the free agency period. I think we got a guy who's Yabusele.
Great,
fantastic. Because I think he's only going to get better.
And he's built for New York.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? International star, too. He's dunked on LeBron James in the Olympics a few years back. And then you got, obviously, Jordan Clarkson, who's just a spark plug off the bench. I think will be the sixth man of the year this season. And then LeBron James. Is that a team that you could say can go out and beat? I think it's the best team in the East at that point. So it's got to be, right?
Currently, yeah. If you're looking at it on paper,
without him, they're either one or two as is, right?
Yeah.
So, who beats them out of the West?
I still think OKC would, just because of their youth and defense. Because I don't know how LeBron would be in a long series if he would wear down. And I need to see how that offense would look. It's been a lot of ISO ball, like with Brunson. Maybe with LeBron, it'll be a little more. He'll play off the ball a little bit more, and just kind of do catch and shoot because he's an excellent 3-point shooter, but Brunson also has to know how to move without the ball. I think sometimes he slows the game down too much, and it could, get your teammates that off a rhythm. Let's say, right? I think LeBron James, his point guard mentality would help in facilitating and maybe running the offense more
Mhm.
smoothly. It's just defense where I have a concern with, not with Mitchell Robinson, but just everybody else, and maybe not Bridges so much, but like Brunson and LeBron, because LeBron lost his step. His defense isn't what it used to be, but I mean, he could be hidden with Mitchell there patrolling the paint, but
Mhm.
I say definitely they have a shot to possibly win the championship, but I think OKC would be better. I think on paper, Houston might be better. But again, we have to see how they gel throughout the season. But or maybe Denver, they're still around. They gave OKC all they can handle,
Yeah.
and
And
with
they got better this offseason too.
they
They had a heck
did.
of an offseason. So they bringing back Brown, bringing in I'm blanking on his name. The guy has a
Cam
hard name to say.
Johnson.
No, who's the guy whose name is impossible to say? He wants to go play in Greece next year.
Oh, Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, Valanciunas. So I listen. If he stays in Denver, that's a formidable two guys to have to deal with, man. Um, both. What's say it again?
Oh, Jonas Valanciunas.
Valanciunas and Jokic. So yeah, I think that they're going to be tough if he decides. There's a part of it that just thinks he's just looking for a little bit of extra money, and he's just saying, "Hey, I really just want to go to Greece," and they'll say, "All right, we'll give you a couple extra bucks," and then the whole idea of Greece is out. You know,
Oh yeah.
um, so I was kind of hoping you'd say the Knicks would win the title, but I guess it's not gonna. You're not gonna say it.
I mean, because like they made you wait for Mike Brown, like that.
They're just a cursed franchise.
Yeah,
Um,
I
so
mean,
let's talk about Mike Brown. He's on our list to talk about. Let's talk about it. Let's get into Mike Brown.
yeah, I mean, as a Knicks fan, when you heard the news, what was your immediate reaction to Mike Brown being the next head coach for the New York Knickerbockers?
I waited weeks and weeks and weeks for this. You know what I mean? Like, um, it's kind of like I felt the same way when I thought maybe I was gonna have no tax on tips, and then I found out it's only for the first 25,000, and
Damn.
then it doesn't really help me much. It was kind of like that. But so let me say this. I'm going to be positive as a Knicks fan because I've had so many years of not being positive and being negative that they've done the right thing up until this point, for the most part, that I've decided I'm going to be positive. And I'm going to go back into the time machine with Doc Brown and Marty McFly. And I'm going to go back to the winter of 1995. Yankees were coming off a really good season. They looked like the team that was going to basically be world champions in the near future. And they decide to fire their beloved manager. Everyone loved Buck Showalter at the time. They decided to fire Buck Showalter. And everyone was like up in arms, like, he's bringing you out of mediocrity. Because if you remember, those early 90s seasons for the Yankees were not very good. The late 80s, early 90s, there were bad Yankee seasons. And he made that franchise not a joke anymore. Got him back to the playoffs. And he gets fired after the 95 season. And who do they end up hiring is, I mean, everybody who knew who Joe Torre was. He was a big time. He was good. He was a great player when he was a player. He's managed in a few places, but he managed in a couple. It was, I think, St. Louis and Mets and Queens, and he never really won. And so you're waiting to see who the Yankees are going to get. They got rid of Showalter. They got to be bringing somebody big time, right? Who are they going to bring? And you hear Joe Torre, and you're like, wait, what? Joe Torre? The guy's never really won before as a manager. Like, what are we doing? I think he also managed the Braves as well. But he knew how to push the right buttons with that. It was the right time, the right place, with the right players, and he became an instant Hall of Famer after a couple of years, surefire Hall of Famer. So I'm going to look back at this hiring as the same. Knicks come off a postseason loss where they look like they're really connecting all the dots to become a future powerhouse, and they fire their coach after a good season, and everyone says, "What? Why?" And then his replacement is someone that's mediocre, and we all said, "Wait, what? Why?" And we could have just kept our other coach, but we. So I'm going to hope this is reminiscent of Yankees 95, winter of 95 going into 96, and that Mike Brown will lead us to 4 out of 5 champions, four champions in 5 years, and be a future Hall of Fame coach. That's how I'm going to look at it. Until that doesn't happen, that's how I'm going to feel about it.
I mean, that's best case scenario, right?
Best case scenario. Yes. Fingers crossed.
I mean, I feel what you're saying. I also think I know you brought up Joe Torre. Those Yankee teams, I think, were stacked. So like, how much managing did you really have to do with those guys? Because their starting pitching was phenomenal, especially the guys that they brought in. And their lineup and mentality as players, they were all classy, hardworking players. They just had that culture already set up. I'm not sure the Knicks culture is sustainable because the players kind of wanted a new voice, a new way of playing, right? And we all know Tibbs is very intense and hard-nosed. And, Mike Brown is to a certain extent as well. They're kind of cut from the same cloth. No nonsense guys. Mike Brown's definitely going to use more of his bench. So that's I mean, definitely, to say the least, right? I mean, it's a pretty good hiring. I'm not going to bash it because I respect Coach Brown, but was it, and we said it with the Steelers, right? How much did you really improve by getting Mike Brown? Are you really changing your philosophy? Is it really a different voice? Is it going to be just the same thing, just packaged differently?
Yeah.
I thought that they had to go with a more offensive-minded coach to, tailor the skill set of the best player, Brunson. Just a defense-first guy. Brunson's not really a defense guy, so they're going to kind of butt heads there, which may be good for Brunson, but again, the fit isn't perfect. Only time will tell to see how successful he'll be. But the Knicks have one of the better rosters in the league, and the East is up for grabs.
I couldn't agree more with you. I'm just looking at it through orange and blue glasses.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like I want to be I want to be happy about it. And so I'm choosing to believe. I'm choosing happiness.
Yeah.
So instead of violence. So that's how I'm kind of looking at it. And you know what? I mean, again, if there's a year for them to really like make some noise, it's this year, because the East is about as wide open as it's been in years, and it's about as wide open as it's going to be until ever maybe, because you're going to have a bunch of guys. Halliburton will be back after next year. In fact, we were talking about it before. You got Halliburton out of the East, you got Dame out of the East, and you got Tatum out of the East, all for next year. But they'll be back the year after.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, you better take advantage of it this year. And the team that scares me the most is, I don't even, it's weird. I know Cleveland was a great team this year, and I know they made some moves this offseason. I don't fear Cleveland. No. I fear Detroit.
Yes.
I fear Detroit. I fear Detroit because I felt like even though the Knicks handled them in the postseason, they had a hard time with them in the regular season. And I think the reason why they were able to handle them in the postseason is more just because of, Knicks were a little bit more wiser and battle tested with that type of with postseason play.
Yep.
But next year's gonna be a different story because they got now some postseason experience. And
Yes.
they got a lot of young players that are now just one season better. When you have a squad of older or middle-aged or older players, 1 year is 1 year more down the hill. They're still climbing. Detroit's still young enough where one more year is actually a good thing for them. They're climbing up. So they scare me next year. I think they're going to be really good. And also the Orlando Magic.
Yep.
The Orlando Magic are going to be they're going to be tough. So those are the two teams. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the Knicks versus one of those two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah. I mean, I could see a scenario, and it depends on the matchups and who they're matched up with. But I could see Orlando making the Eastern Conference Finals or Detroit, like you said. Orlando made moves too. They got Desmond Bain. They spent
Huge
a
move.
lot for him. But they have a young nucleus though. With Broncaro and Wagner.
And they brought the younger Wagner, or the other, I don't know if he's younger, the Mo Wagner they brought back for a discount. They got him back. They got him for about $2 million cheaper a year. Because they waived him and then they re-signed him. Or they didn't pick up the option, I should say. They didn't pick up the option and then they re-signed him for a couple mil less. That was a good squad last year. Bankaro was another guy. Only going to get better, man. Only going to get better. And now you add Bain.
Yeah. And if him and the other Wagner didn't get hurt, they were easily a top 4 seed. They could have been, 1, 2, 3, or 4 last year. And I remember when they were fully healthy, man, they gave Boston all they could handle. They were a very tough out. And even what was it, the 2 years ago when they played Cleveland in that first round, they gave them everything, man. That's a team that's under the radar and scary. Like you said, if they have a chance, I think Orlando sees the opportunity. That's why they went and got a Desmond Bain. I think the Knicks are percolating too for a move. Maybe you can get your boy LeBron, man. I don't know.
He's not my boy. I don't even know if I want LeBron. Let me start that in there. I'm just saying, just thinking. And Louis says that Atlanta made some moves too. My thing is the thing with Atlanta. They definitely made some moves this year. I just don't believe in Trae Young.
No.
And I feel like Trae Young is one of those guys. He's just not a winning player. And I think is for all the points he can score and all the shots he can make, I just feel like he's not a winning player. And he's not going to
doubles.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going to be a guy. I just don't trust them with him on the team.
No,
I just don't. I feel like he's a volume scorer that doesn't really. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to.
It doesn't really impact wins and losses like you think it does.
Kind of like what Westbrook did for years. Westbrook, back when Westbrook was getting triple doubles every night, they would still lose.
Yeah, and Trae Young doesn't really give you anything defensively,
No.
He's. I don't want to say he's a one-trick pony, but he's definitely just an offensive player who's streaky, and he has his moments where he gets hot. He can hit shots from anywhere on the floor, but
he reminds me of Harden in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Harden plays. I've seen games where Harden just stood there and watched the guy go around him one time. I think was he in Brooklyn at that point? Or was it still Houston? I forget. But he doesn't even try to play defense. I feel like Trae Young is almost that bad.
Yeah. And
you got to. That's a good question. They got to do whatever they can to keep Giannis happy. If that's going to make him happy, then they'll do it. I think Miles Turner's a nice player, but did they upgrade from Brook Lopez that much? No. Brook Lopez was one of those guys that was quietly just went about his business.
Yeah.
I don't think Miles Turner really brings any more heat to the Milwaukee Bucks. So they do need something. They need a guard. They don't have any. They need a quality guard. So Chris Paul, but I think Chris Paul's already said he's only going to. I think it was Phoenix or the Clippers were the only two teams he would play for. And if not, then he would retire, I think.
Wow.
I read that somewhere. So, but you know what? LA would be a good spot for him. He has a history there. Why not go? That's what his best years was as a Clipper, I would say, right? Wouldn't
Yeah,
go there.
that
Go
or
there.
Hornets.
Well, Hornets is where he kind of made his name, but I feel like with LA is where he, when it was like when he still had the young Blake Griffin that was in his prime,
Lob City.
Lob City, they were able to make a lot of noise, and I just think it would be a nice place for him to go to be like the swan song, maybe wins. Because listen, if that's been one of those teams where if they could have ever just be healthy for a season.
Well, I think that's a sleeper team in the West. If they are healthy, I think getting Brooke Lopez on that team was a phenomenal move.
Yeah. But that's the thing though with the LA Clippers is they're always a sleeper team because they're always like if they could just get it together for a season, and then you had Paul George who barely played and what's Kawhi who never plays. Like I love how they said, oh, he trained late season this year to see what it would feel like to keep playing. It was like, what are you talking about, bro? Now he's playing. Now he's working hard. Now he's working hard. Now he's putting mileage on his body. Nice. So yeah, I don't know, man.
No,
I don't know.
I mean, he could go to the Clippers, but
Phoenix really needs more guards too. Phoenix is another spot that they loaded up on centers, man. They on draft night they got Malak, Malawak. They bring in what's his name?
Yeah.
So Mark Williams. They need someone back there with Devin Booker. That wasn't a deep team before, and they really didn't get much deeper.
No.
That was their problem throughout all this mess is they just weren't deep because they loaded up on 3 stars and nothing else with Beal, KD, and Booker. Beal is, the sooner they get Beal off the books over there, the better. He's not a 1 or a 2 anymore. Unfortunately, he wasted too many of his good years in Washington. That's sad because he had some really good years there. But he's no more than a 1 or a 2. I mean, he's no more a 1 or a 2.
But don't you think that that's kind of like who he is? Like he's a good player on a bad team where he's a volume shooter and that's it. Because like when he had the opportunity to come and play on a winning team, the chemistry just went to nothing.
Yeah,
this was a team that was in the finals not too long ago.
You know what? You're right because and listen, every bad team has those guys that you think they're great, and when you get them, and then you say as a good team, if we could add him, he could be our number 2 guy, and then you get him, and you're like, oh, he doesn't. You know why? Because teams that are bad, somebody's got to score, and that's my thing. Like if you remember, if we want to go back into the time machine again with the Knicks when they were really bad, like 15 years ago, I remember a guy I used to love as a Knicks fan, even though we were horrible. Number 42, David Lee. Remember the white? He was actually a white guy,
yes.
And he could ball.
Yes. David
Lee was one of those guys that all Knicks fans, we loved him because he was good, really, really good. And we were upset when they couldn't re-sign him. But then he left, and he was just another guy.
Yeah.
I also sometimes feel the same thing about Kevin Love to an extent. He was great when Minnesota had nobody. He left, and he was maybe a little bit better than just another guy, but not as great as he was. And it's also what I think about Anthony Simons in Boston now.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Portland where they didn't have anybody else. So of course he was a guy who scored, but he comes to Boston. I think he's going to be just another guy in Boston. I really don't. I didn't think it was a great trade for Boston. I felt like they gave up defense. I know they had to get rid of Drew Holiday, and that's what it was. It wasn't more about like what can we get for him. It was more like, all right, well, we got to get rid of him. Let's get something for him. I felt like, and but I'd rather have Drew Holiday.
Yeah, same.
I know they didn't want to be over the second apron and whatever it is, but I don't think Simons is a great pickup for them.
Well, to your point, I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, especially later in his career, I think the same could be said about Allen Iverson. Once he left Philly and he had the chance to go to Denver, and I know it wasn't the best mix, but they thought that we're gonna have 2 of the best like one-on-one players on the same team, and it's gonna do something, and that's
when you find out that doesn't work.
No,
you can't have 2 guys play iso ball.
No, It's
You know?
bad enough that it's one, right?
Yeah, exactly. But at least he was able to lead his team to a finals. Like he actually was able to win. He wasn't just a guy who could score because nobody else was scoring. He actually made his teams win games. These other guys were on bad teams but were just good scorers on bad teams and then went somewhere else and didn't do anything. So that's the difference, I think, with Allen Iverson and those guys.
Well, the East was not that great back then.
Oh, the East was horrible back then.
Yeah, so it's almost like now. It's like that window of opportunity. So like after the Jordan years, there was this void in the East, right? And the lockout season, the Knicks went to the finals. Then the next year, what was it? Philly or Indiana, then Philly, and then the Nets for 2 years. So like it was just whoever won the battle royal was going to be it. It wasn't like
No, I understand. And then in the West, you had Lakers, Spurs. The Kings were a powerhouse back then. They just couldn't get over the hump of the Lakers.
The Mavericks were like up and coming.
Yeah,
it was tough, but that's what I'm saying. Like if you put Allen Iverson on a different team, on a team that's already established, like let's say the Spurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, they needed maybe before Tony Parker came around. Do you think that maybe Allen Iverson, Tim Duncan were a good mix? Because for Team USA, they didn't win the gold, and those two guys were the main guys.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have been. Parker was a facilitator, and that's why that team was so dominant. And you had like and Manu Ginobili was a big part of that team. And if you had Iverson, would you have gotten the plays out of Duncan and Manu that we got with Tony Parker at the head?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. They had Robert Horry a lot of those years where they were really good, taking those tough shots and those final shots. Would he have taken those shots? Now Allen Iverson runs it up the court and takes that shot.
Yeah.
And we don't, and the legend of Big Shot Bob isn't a thing. So, who knows? Look, this is my guy Oliver.
Hey,
anybody that cares, he's tough, man. Go ahead, Oliver. Go. He's only like 3 months old. He's already getting big. Anyway, so yeah, man. So all right, a couple more things. Really, maybe two quick things, and then we'll get to our rants. Which I'm still going to use my same rant from this week that we didn't get to do because I still feel strongly about it. So I don't know if you came up with anything new, but I still feel strongly about mine.
Oh no, I'm going to stay the same.
Okay, all right. So yeah, and mine is a basketball one. Yours is a baseball one for as a teaser for anyone that's going to stick around. All right. So also let's talk about Chet and Paolo extensions. Paolo, I think, was a great extension. He's the leader of your team. I think he can be a top 5 player. I don't think he's there yet, but I think he'd be a top 5 player in this league. Chet, I think they overpaid for the guy. There's other guys you got to pay before Chet on this team. Maybe not a lot. Jalen Williams. You got to pay Jalen Williams before you pay Chet. You gave Chet a lot of money.
$50 million a year. Was it 5 years, 250?
It's something like that. I think it's something like that. So I don't know. My thing is this: is if you have money left over, okay, great. But you got to make sure there's other guys that you're going to sign. You're going to have to sign Jalen Williams. I feel like this: if you could build your team around SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet, and then just use the rest of your roster because they still have a ton of draft picks, still, right? They still got a ton. Just fill out the rest with draft picks as you go. You just got to make sure you pick the right guys. You can survive, and you can still be a top Western Conference team. But you made it a little bit harder because now also, too, does Jalen Williams look at in the Jalen Williams household? Are they saying, really, you paid this guy that much more money? I'm not even paid yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know because I think where Chet is number 3 on that team, I think there's a big discrepancy between number 2 and number 3.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Williams is that much better than Chet. It's not like Chet comes in third by a little bit. Chet comes in third by a lot. Like Jalen Williams. Listen, Jalen Williams is the number 2 guy on the team, and he still is an all pro player or an all NBA player.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that because Chet, came with a lot of cachet coming out of college, compared a lot to Wemby with their body type, style of play, that this was like a long run move, and knowing that the salary cap is going to get bigger as the years go on, maybe this contract doesn't look as bad maybe 5 years from now, 4 years from now, once the cap grows a little bit, because a lot of more money is getting poured into the NBA. So I don't know if it's this year or next year, the CBA is coming up.
I think it's 2 years.
In 2 years. Okay.
It's 2 years.
So I think that they're looking at that and hoping that this contract kind of looks a little bit better once the new agreement for the league happens, the CBA. But I think they did overpay for him, to your point, and I think Jalen Williams is looking at this and saying, you took care of Chet. I'm an all-star player, an all-NBA player. I wonder what you're going to offer me.
Yeah. Yeah, it sets the tone to say, I deserve that or more.
Right.
So,
and to your point too, now you're losing a little bit of financial flexibility.
That's the worst part of it.
Yeah. And
because that means go ahead. Yeah.
No, you have all this draft capital, right? And not all draft picks hit. So It's like you are going to have to spend money somewhere. And if that's filling out the margins, filling out the other 2 starting positions, interchange whoever, like Hartenstein worked out for them, but he's getting paid nicely for his role.
Yeah.
Guys are going to get priced out, unless they make a trade and kind of balance it. I don't know.
Well, and that, you just called one of the names that I was actually just going to bring up, because what happens is, if you're going to, come on, Oliver, this guy, he's messing with everything on the computer. If you have to get rid of a couple players, man, you're going to get rid of the guys. Like, I feel like the guys are going to end up having to go because they're getting paid a certain amount of money where it's not too low, it's not that high either, but that's right in the middle. Those are the guys that they're going to need to make a move on. And I'm afraid that you're going to see 2 players, Hartenstein and Caruso.
Yeah.
And listen, this guy is about to walk on my computer, bro. Listen, SGA is the best player on that team. Jalen Williams, second best player on that team. But let's make no mistake, Hartenstein and Caruso are the heart and soul of that team. They're the grizzled veterans. They are the edge. When you need an edge, they are the guys that give you the edge. They are the heart and soul of that team. Caruso knew how to win. He's won before, albeit it was the bubble, but he has won before.
Yep.
He's a veteran for a young team. Hartenstein, a veteran for a young team. The guy that when they needed a bigger body in the middle and Chet couldn't do it because Chet's too frail, they needed a guy who could bring more of a tough-minded defense. Like, listen, Chet's a good defensive player. I'm not saying he's not, but Hartenstein has that he's a bigger body. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's going to be able to bang differently with certain guys. I sound like Charles Barkley right now when he's banging you. Those are 2 guys that they are going to need. And then let's look at some of the other guys that aren't going to be able to be on the team long term at that point. Lou Dort was a big piece of this team. So those other guys, it's going to be a shame to not see them be able to keep it together.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Because, and again, Chet deserves a pay raise. I'm not saying he doesn't, but I would have made sure Jalen Williams got paid first. And then I would have said, okay, then it would have been Chet. And then I see how I felt the rest of the roster. And I try to keep it where, at least on a level where I can still keep Hartenstein and Caruso. Because I think those guys are going to be here for one more year. And then I think you're going to see they're going to have to move on from, because you got to pay Jalen Williams. And
Yeah.
they're not going to. So I think you're going to see almost like how the Celtics did this year, where they decided to say, okay, we got to trade some players to get under that second apron. They're going to have to trade some players. And I think it's going to be a Hartenstein and hey, send him back to New York. I love them here, and Caruso. So that's the problem. Like, and I think you're taking like they were the heart and soul of that team. They weren't the top. They weren't even the top 5 best players from the team. I get it, but they were guys that I felt like brought a calming influence to the locker room. And I thought they had a certain attitude that young teams need, kind of like we were saying if LeBron went to Minnesota. I thought that's what they were here. And I think so. I think they're more valuable than what their stat sheet would show.
100%. And they're like Caruso, like the things that he does, you can't really quantify with numbers. You know, like you said, like his mindset, his hustle, that rubs off on the other players.
100%.
And you saw everybody on OKC diving for loose balls, going in the passing lanes, trying to steal, intercept the ball. Like those are the little things that a Caruso brings to a team that you can't really put a price on. I think they jumped the gun, with that big contract to Chet. I think they're still riding that, winning the title high.
Everybody's happy. Let's pay everybody. Chet, you want money? Yeah, it's money. We love you, Chet.
And kudos to his agent for the timing of getting that contract was perfect.
Yeah, it was. Louis asked about the 3-team trade. To me, it was a bunch of the Miami won that trade, right?
Yeah.
Powell is the best player in that was in that trade. He went to Miami.
Collins is a nice player too, though. Going to LA, they definitely have they kind of needed a 4, and he's athletic. When he's healthy, another guy that's injury prone, he adds an athleticism that team needs, especially from the front court.
Who do you think won the trade out of the 3?
I mean, I'm not really high on Miami. I think given where the Clippers are right now, I think adding a John Collins.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I'm just saying, who do you think is the better player?
Yeah, the best player is Powell. Yeah, definitely. But like Miami is like you have Hero.
He's all that's all they got, really, is him and Hero.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I just think if you're talking about the best player, that's Miami got it. But yeah, I think where the Clippers are, that fit, that fit works for them. So I guess you could say the Clippers probably won it in that sense.
Yeah.
But Miami got the better player. But I get it. I know exactly. I agree with what you're saying.
Any positives from the Utah perspective, or
I already forgot who they got.
That's all you need to know, right?
Utah's a mess. They have to hope that Ace Bailey is the real deal. He doesn't even want, and he doesn't even want to be there. It took him. Everybody goes to their city that night of the draft. No later than the next morning. It took him like 4 days to get to Utah.
I mean,
listen. They got the other kid too. Who's the other kid they picked? I can't remember. They got two solid players. Ace Bailey, I think, is going to be good. I think he's going to be a good pro. And they got the other kid. I'm blanking on his name, but they got another kid too in the first round.
Well, I think, and he's a Rutgers guy like me, so like I don't want to say too much negative about Ace, but I read somewhere that he kind of like, I don't know if he blew off John Stockton or he didn't really acknowledge him, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm not old enough to know John Stockton." But
I was going to say he probably doesn't understand what John Stockton meant to the NBA.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Is like that's why if you ever, I don't know who you think. We won't get into the debate because it's a ridiculous debate. I feel like everybody, and it's the most overdone debate. I think everyone even knows what debate I'm talking about just by saying the debate.
Ugh.
Jordan or LeBron. We don't have to go into it. What side of the LeBron Jordan do you go on, and then I'll explain what I'm saying.
Well, what side am I on? And LeBron or Jordan?
Yeah,
Jordan.
Okay. I don't know how old you are. I know you're not quite as old as me, but I know you're not a baby either. Our generation knows it's Jordan. The younger generation thinks it's LeBron.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and so again, we won't get into it. It's not about championships being 6 for 6 and 4 for whatever he was. You know, there's more to it. I always say, with the floor spacing that's allowed today, could you imagine Jordan having the spacing to do whatever to do it? What he, you know, like, it would be no joke. It would be no joke. So yeah, so like, you know, but it's the same kind of argument where he doesn't know who John Stockton is. He probably thinks LeBron's better than Jordan.
Oh, of course.
You know, meanwhile, people that have seen the game in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, we say we know Jordan was better. And that's why I said that to a kid the other day. I said, he's like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yo, you've seen LeBron play. I've seen LeBron play. You've never seen Jordan play. I seen Jordan play.
Yep.
You can't tell me what Jordan would have did in this era. And I seen him play. I witnessed it. You didn't. You just hear stories. You saw some clips. That doesn't make you an expert on what Jordan would have did. Right. So yeah. So with Ace Bailey, that's just the generation. I think it happens in any sport. Listen, if you talk to a young quarterback, if you talk to Lamar Jackson, do you think he even really knows what Johnny Unitas meant to the game of football back in the 50s? He might have only have heard of him because they both played in Baltimore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I guarantee if you go Bo Nix probably doesn't even know who Johnny Unitas is. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where I think it goes across all sports.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a shame. And hopefully he will get his act together because I think he will be a good player. I just hope he's not one of these guys that we think's a jerk.
Yeah,
I don't want to be a guy that's a jerk. So, but we'll see, man. We'll see. What else we got? Oh wait, let's see. Sacramento Kings, Chicago Bulls. Yeah, agreed.
I mean,
agreed.
Sacramento just got, you know, the two Bulls former stars, you know, and they're Chicago West. They have,
but they didn't do anything in Chicago. So what can they do in a tougher conference?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're the Kings, what are you doing? You got Levine and DeMar DeRozan. That did not work for what, 2 or 3 years in Chicago. Older.
What makes you think it's gonna be older, more injury prone, and in a conference that's tougher? What do you think is going to change? And not only that, it's a shame to see what Sacramento did, because if you just go back 2 or 3 years ago, they looked like a team that was on the rise.
They were. They
were 3 seed 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they were giving Golden State all they can handle.
And
the beam, light the beam, whatever the hell they were doing out there.
And now it's like they're starting over. And they're not even starting over in a good spot because they still it's not like they're a team that's kind of tanking a little bit and getting draft picks. They got 2 guys that are kind of washed a little bit. They're paying them a ton of money each. They don't have a million draft picks like a lot of these other teams need and use.
They got to free my boy Sabonis, man.
Please do. Send him to New York. I want everybody to play for New York. I think that will happen. I think the Sonics will be back. I think it just makes too much sense. I think they'll be the Sonics. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time. I could see this probably what do they have? They have 30 teams, right? So they'll probably want to add 2 and go to 32. I would say it would probably be there, maybe Vegas.
I think so. Because I think there was a rumor that LeBron wants to be the owner of that team.
What about Nashville? Or is it too close to Memphis, I guess?
It is. I don't know. Is Tennessee really a hotbed of basketball? You know, like...
Well, I just think Nashville's such a hotbed for Like
anything?
it's
Like
such a big growing
music?
city. Yeah, I just feel like that would be a good spot, you know. Um, but yeah, it's probably Seattle and Vegas. I can't think of another place that would
Yeah,
really like need a basketball. Like
because I'm trying to think. Like, is it the East? Like, do you go to St. Louis? Maybe. Um, St. Louis doesn't have a
yeah,
team.
they've had a team. They've had a bit.
Baltimore, but
They got the Bullets.
Wizard.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the Wizards. I think
Yeah.
I could see St. Louis being a spot, but but I think Vegas and Seattle is. I think Seattle's a no brainer, and I think Vegas is probably the second no brainer.
And what do you think about maybe a reunion in Vancouver?
It didn't work the first time. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like Toronto has worked, and is there another city that's worthy of putting a basketball team? Maybe Montreal, but that's too close to Toronto anyway. Vancouver would probably be the one, but it failed miserably the first time, like
Yeah.
miserably.
I think they were
You know?
banking on, the crossover for hockey, and
Yeah,
it just flopped.
and it's weird because like basketball doesn't do well in Canada, but hockey does well in Florida and Texas, so in
But
Vegas.
I mean, think about it. And if you think of like division realignment, if you did have a Seattle and Vancouver, they're very close in proximity. So they're kind of natural rivals. And if
Mhm.
Portland ever gets relevant, I mean, you have a 3-team like Pacific Northwest,
How
but
close is Seattle and Vancouver though?
I think
Like, how could they be? Could it be where close enough where they don't want it's too close of a market?
it could be. It could be something like not as close as like Buffalo and like Toronto, maybe, but it's somewhere along those lines.
Luis Medina says, "How about Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh could be a spot,
Yeah. I
but I
mean,
don't see it.
if they're
If they ever go to put a 40th team in the league, Pittsburgh will be a spot they go to. I don't think they're going there right now.
yeah, I think they'll put a team in Mexico before they put it in Pittsburgh.
I think they should put a football team in Mexico City, and
Me
I
too.
mean American football.
Yeah.
Before we talk about London, let's put one please put one in Mexico City, please. It would be a
Yeah.
good rivalry with the Southern California teams, with the Texas teams, with the Cardinals. You put it, somewhere in one of those divisions. I would love to see them put maybe a Canada, a Montreal team.
Yeah.
Maybe a Vancouver. That Vancouver would work in football, I think.
Yeah.
The only thing that works, the only reason why I don't know if Toronto would work is because the Buffalo Bills are so close to the point where they play in Toronto sometimes. They'll play a game here and there in Toronto. So I don't think that would work. But
It's their
Montreal,
biggest market, though.
it is. But I think because of the Bills, they wouldn't. I think the Bills probably could be like, hey, the Bills would probably put a stop to it.
Oh, yeah. I can see
But
that.
there's a ton of the cities though that St. Louis doesn't have a football team anymore. They could have one. San Diego should have a football team still. They don't have
Yeah.
one.
I mean, Baltimore had, well, I mean, not Baltimore. Damn, what's the other team that freaking relocated?
Oakland.
I mean, yeah, the Bay Area. Like,
The problem with Oakland is they can't keep a team in any sport.
yeah, and
Like
that's what I'm saying.
even
Like, they have
even the
great
Warriors
fans.
went across the Bay. They went to
Yeah.
San Francisco. So they just you're right. Great fans. I don't know what it is that they. Well, no, I mean the A's they never show up. Raiders always showed up, but I feel like the city just didn't have the money for to put to give them the facilities. Yeah, that'd be a good topic to do once we get Abby in the house, man, because that'd be fun to kind of like let's game plan where we could put some more teams in different sports.
Yeah.
But all right, you know what? We are getting a little late, so let's get into a rant. I'm excited to hear your rant because I love this guy for this one reason alone. So please let's hear your rant.
So I think it was last week or leading up to last week. There's an infamous day, and every Mets fan, like myself, knows where I'm going to go with this. It's Bobby Bonilla Day. Every year we got to be reminded about us giving him like $1.3 million until 2035. I mean, I get that that's like a rib to Mets fans, but given how the economy changed and like how there's like more wild deferred contracts, I mean, all right, we're paying him. I mean, we got the richest owner in the sport, so like that's a drop in the bucket for us now. But I get it. You know, we've had to pay him for like 30 years. You know, it's fine. Life goes on. You know, I'm just trying to say it's not that big of a deal, but I'm happy for him. You know, his agent did great. You know, I'm not going to hate Bobby Bonilla. I like him as a person. You know, he's a New York guy. He's a fellow Puerto Rican, so I'm not going to hate the dude. But damn, that damn, it's one of those things where he got it, but then let's look at the Ohtani contract.
Well, that's ridiculous.
I mean, are we gonna have the Ohtani day? Because I'm gonna be looking for all the Dodgers fans, and I'm gonna say, just remember how we had to take the brunt of the whole deferred payment thing. Now you have to pay after that contract, mind you. The first 10 years, he's getting $2 million a year, and then he'll be paid $48 million after the 10 years, and he's probably going to be doing nothing. $48 million to do nothing. I'll take the 1.3. You know,
it's like a big retirement fund.
Yeah, like he has a pension. You know, he's taken care of. But Ohtani,
you know what? It's weird. There's a bunch of guys that get deferred payments around the same time as 1 year, and nobody really name another one. I can't think of any offhand, but everybody knows Bobby. But everybody knows Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah,
everybody knows Bonilla. But again, it's almost to the point you would think Bobby Bonilla was the only guy because he's the only guy that anybody in the league talks about. Exactly. And meanwhile, there's probably a good 100 guys that are getting paid over the last few years.
Yeah,
and the only one we think about is Bobby Bo. It's crazy. And I don't know if it's because they say, "Oh, look at the Mets, they're idiots, they're paying." Like, not so much now, but with the previous ownership and the previous regime, where they were a mess in the front office, on the field, everywhere, right? I think maybe it's that. Because they'd be like, "Oh, look, they're paying this other guy $1 million. He hasn't played for their team in 30 years, or whatever it was." So I don't know, man. But yeah, I get it, man. It's very hypocritical. When there's probably like the majority of the teams in the league that have it where they're paying people after the fact. Look at the Yankees are paying. We didn't even mention it today, but DJ LeMahieu's gone. So therefore we mentioned it. I know he's on the thumbnail. So I think I planned on mentioning it. I just forgot to put it in the notes because it happened today. But they got to pay him like $30 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So to go away, to go play on another team.
No, and like even if you take it a step further, like even when you fire coaches, you're still paying them.
That's a good stat if that's true. Who would it be? Boston and LA probably, I guess, right?
Yeah. And see, that's another one. Like Manny Ramirez definitely made a lot more money than Bobby Bo. Like if we even look at the numbers of what they're getting, especially as the economy grew and free agency really like blew up, like 1 million, 1 point whatever million is not really
peanuts.
It's peanuts now, especially Steve Cohen. Like, okay.
He's like, let me check my couch cushion.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Bobby. I'll be right with you. Let me just where's my change jar?
I would say own the holiday. If you're gonna do it, bring him to Citi Field and
have a Bobby Bonilla day.
Yeah, why not?
Yo, let me say something. People would pack out the house. He wasn't a Met for a long time. He wasn't even that great when he was a Met. If you remember, that's where he was great as a Pirate. came to the Mets and was quite not as good, and kind of got like a raw deal on that contract. But you know what? Come back. Let's celebrate him. We got to pay him anyway. Let's hold the thing. He could throw out the first pitch. You could hand him his pay. You could hand him his $1.2 million check right here. Like in front of the crowd. There's things you can do and have a Bobby Bonilla day. Maybe Bobby Bonilla bobblehead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Make an event out of it.
Get your money back. People will pay to see it.
Yes, and I think if you own it, I think that's when it dies. That holiday.
It's almost like when someone calls you fathead. You know what I'm saying? If you own it and be like I didn't even do it on purpose. Growing up, I had a friend that people used to call fathead. He owned it. When he introduced himself, he would introduce himself as fathead. It got to that point where he owned it. You're gonna call me fathead? Well, guess what? I am the fathead. And he owned it. Same thing. If someone if you can't. They can't hurt you if you own it, right? So, but all right. So let me get into my rant, and we'll be quick about it.
Sure.
There's nothing I can't stand more. Oh, okay. The 97 World Series you did win. Yeah, that's right. He was part of that team.
He was a good Marlin.
Yep.
And Oriole.
That's right. I forgot he was at the end. All right. So there's nothing I can't stand more than teams celebrating stupid things. Like, I can't stand it when a team gets in, like in baseball, they celebrate. Like, listen, you win the division, great, celebrate. You win the pennant, great, celebrate. But if you make it in as like the last wild card team, I don't need to see you celebrating with champagne. I just don't need to see it. The other one, this is more basketball. I don't need to see the Fever, Indiana Fever, who are only playing 500 ball all season, celebrating with champagne and a cup, drinking out of a cup because you won an in-season tournament. Michael Jordan probably looks at that and laughs. Derek Jeter probably looks at that and laughs. And it's not just the Indiana Fever. I'm not picking on them. I'm not picking on the WNBA. It's the most recent one. The NBA has it too. Derek Jeter would laugh. MJ would laugh. Kobe Bryant is rolling in his grave. Do not celebrate, especially when you're 8-8. You're 8-8, and you are celebrating like you won the championship when you won a Commissioner's Cup, which is a made-up thing that they put in the middle of the season, where if you won strategically against certain teams in this tournament, this whack tournament, you get to get some free champagne from the league, and I think you get a $30,000 check, and you're drinking out of the Commissioner's Cup. Let me tell you something. Here's how meaningless it is to me, and I can't be the only one that thinks it. Who won it last year for the NBA? The season that just ended a couple of weeks ago. I don't even remember who won it this year.
Wasn't it I want to say the Bucks, maybe?
And that's my point. You don't even know for sure.
I don't know for sure.
But I'll tell you what I do know for sure. They celebrated with champagne when they won it, whoever it was, and it's ridiculous. The Indiana Fever just celebrated with champagne when they won the Commissioner's Cup. They are 8-8. It's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. It's a dumb gimmick in the first place. You want to make something fun? You want to really make things count and make it important? Let's do what they do in soccer, man. Break the league up into 3 different divisions and have relegation. I'll go for that before I go for this. This is just a dumb gimmick. The same way they say, hey, we're going to have an All-Star game. Let's make LeBron James and Kevin Durant the captains. No, stop. It's sick to my stomach. And maybe I'm not trying to be old guy, get off my lawn guy. It's just ridiculous. Why can't we just have an All-Star game the way we always had an All-Star game? And if you want to put more of a premium on the defense, do it. Maybe we've said it once before on our previous show. I know TJ and Buff mentioned it on their show. Make the losing team pay the winning team. If the purse is $100,000 to the winning team, it's got to come out of the losing team's pocket at that point. Ooh. Come up with something where there's something on the line for these guys. Something at stake where they I'm going to play defense on this guy because I'm not going to pay this guy $100,000. I need to see something like that. That's a good thing to do. Now they'll never get it done as the CBA, but that would be cool. You know, I don't want to see the in-season tournament anymore. I'm done with it. I was done from minute one. I'll tell you what. If you make it to the finals of the in-season tournament, you pay one extra game. Guess what I don't want? I don't want my team in that championship to win it because I don't want to have to play an extra game where I could possibly get somebody could get hurt. It's extra mileage on my guys' legs. Same reason why I never want to see a Nick in the Olympics. I don't need to. I don't want to see it. I don't care about a gold medal. I'm sorry. Like, listen, great, USA, great. I don't care about an Olympic medal. The Olympics mean nothing to me. I don't want to win. I don't care if we win a gold medal. I really don't. Same thing with the baseball classic. When everyone was like, "Oh, look, Aaron Judge, he's going to be the captain of the team." I'm like, that's not great. That sucks. What if somebody hits him? A pitch comes too close inside and breaks his wrist, and I lose him for a year. You listen. You dealt with it firsthand with Edwin Diaz a few years ago. You lost it for a whole year
because both fronts. Because pitching for Team Puerto Rico, and then he's also the Mets closer. And I'm like, come on, dude. Like,
so you know what I'm saying, man? Like, I rather my professional team win than my country team. And again, it's not about not caring about my country. That's a dumb thing anyway. I don't need to win a gold medal. I don't need to win the WBC. I don't need to win I don't need to win FIBA. None of that stuff. I don't care. I want my guys healthy for the regular season. I don't need to win an in-season tournament where they're going to play an extra game or two because they made it to the finals, and now I got to worry about them getting hurt in that game. The whole time, I breathe a sigh of relief at the end. Don't worry about the champagne. It's the most ridiculous thing. Adam Silver is Nosferatu. He's the worst.
I think he's the worst commissioner in sports
by far.
I think he diluted basketball.
He looks like a Make-A-Wish kid guy. He looks like He looks like he's dying, but he's looked that way for the 10 years. He's not. He doesn't look young, but he hasn't aged in the 10 years or whatever he's been commissioner for.
No,
there's something not right about him. I'm telling you, I haven't seen him out in the daylight. I've only seen him at night. All right, that's gonna do it this week. I did my best, Abby. I'm sorry, but she will be back next week. I believe she'll be gone the week after. Maybe that time Guy can host and I can just sit back and answer questions. But yeah, so man, I think next week we're going to be talking to a bunch of new shows developing. I know we've been talking about it, and I think we're going to kind of lock them down in the next 2 weeks, starting next week. And I think you'll see them come football season. We'll have a whole bunch of new shows on Sports Pop or Pop Sports, I should say. So stay tuned for that. We'll have a lot more fun stuff coming up, man. Other than that, and anything from you guys?
Just excited. Next week it's going to be the All-Star game for baseball, home run derby, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're entertained. That's all I want.
It should be. It always makes me think of a kid. Having a sleepover like a friend's house, or and getting snacks and watching the game. A bunch of the kids in the neighborhood watching the game together. He looks like the teacher on South Park. He says, "Great show. Keep doing your thing. Thank you, Louis. Hopefully we see you next week. Also, tune back into the channel here and there, man, because there's a lot of other good shows too. We got 2 shows on Monday. We got this show on Wednesday. We got a show on Friday, and again, in probably about a month or 2, you're going to see at least a show a day from different shows. So please keep up with us, Louis. Yeah, man. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, man. Hold on, because I'm doing this too, so I got to make sure I get all this stuff right. All right. Are we ready? We're out. Peace.